Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
Great Scott! There's no crying in baseball!
You better hold on tight, Spider Monkey.
This is where the fun begins.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That's right, we're ranking Back to the Future. Back to the Future is a 1985 American science fiction film. In the film, after accidentally traveling back to 1955 in a time machine built by an eccentric scientist, teenager Marty McFly must make sure his parents fall in love or risk erasing his own future. Now, before I get into the movie in any sort of way, I just want to say thank you for clicking on this video. Thank you for giving me any time at all. If you've made it this far, then you've made it past the average amount of time that anyone spends on my videos. So I just want to say thank you. Sometimes I address or ask questions at the end, but no one ever really gets there. So I'm kind of replacing it by putting it up here. Please watch some of my video. If you don't like it, that's fine, but tell me why. I'm curious. I have a small amount of people that watch my videos, and though I try my best to make them better in any way that I see, if I don't have opinions, it's kind of hard to see that. I want to make a community where people like to comment and talk about movies because I love movies. They bring something to my life, and this is a great movie for that example, and I just want to, you know, connect with people and have a place where people feel like they can connect with not only me, but other people as well. So feel free to jump around and see different parts of the video, and if you don't like it, let me know. If you like it, let me know. I just be nice. I really appreciate you giving me some of your time. That being said, I also want to address the fact that this was a user commented video, and I'll put his username here. It's like B4LazS123. I don't know how you're supposed to say it, but I also want to shout out this person because not only did he comment this movie, but he's also just a really nice person. I've been doing this for a little while now, like 2 years or so, and I'm kind of inconsistent, right? Life gets in the way. This isn't my job. I have to do a lot of other things in my life, and I'm busy. And so I do this for fun, and I want to get back into it, and I try to keep consistent with it when I can, but sometimes it doesn't work. But every time I've come back to try again, he always has something really nice to say, and I just want to say that I appreciate all of your nice comments. They really help. It definitely helps with the motivation because I like doing it just because I enjoy doing it. But then just being able to connect with somebody in any sort of way and knowing that anyone cares or likes what I have to say is really, really cool. So I appreciate you being just genuinely a nice person, and I want to recognize that. Okay, the movie, right? I have a huge bias for this movie. I was actually hoping that this movie would not be suggested for a very long time, just because there's a lot of bias with this movie. I grew up on it. It's a movie that my dad enjoyed and showed to me when I was younger, and I fell in love with it and have watched it 1,000 times. I will watch it 1,000 times more. This movie always brings me joy, and it always connects me to my dad, who I have a great relationship with, who I love. And so even though that's not necessarily what the movie ever intended, that is what has happened with it for me in my life. It's one of the reasons I think movies are just amazing, because they can bring things to your life that you never even expected and connect to you to life and you to people in ways that you never even thought. It's amazing. It's one of the reasons I love movies so much. And this is one of those movies that has made my love for movies. Now, some of that is objectively correct, okay? Because there are movies made about this movie, about how good it is and the following that it has. Now, are some of the points going to be a little bit biased and maybe just not make a whole lot of sense because I just love the movie? Yes. That's okay. Too bad. You know, it's my list. I'll do whatever the heck I want with it. But this is kind of a list ender in some sense. Like, maybe it will change as I get older, but this movie is just amazing. It will always have a special place in my heart and will always remind me of the relationship I have with my father, and I will always love it for that reason. But let's get into the 10 essential aspects and objectively why this movie is a fantastic. First is plot. Does the movie follow a comprehensive story arc and is plausible within the world that has been created? Now, one of the main reasons that I think that this movie has just stood up with time and has remained popular over decades is because the story is written so well. The plot of this movie is so detail oriented without you necessarily realizing it. You would watch this movie on the first go around and not notice a lot of things, but you continue to watch it and you'll notice how many details are present in this movie. This is one of the best time travel movies ever made as far as just details. It does a really good job. When you're dealing with time travel, things get really, really tricky and you have to kind of keep things consistent throughout the movie and make sense to why certain things have changed or not changed. I think that's something that time travel movies really struggle with, is the lack of change sometimes, where things will occur and they'll go back and everything will be normal, and it's like, why is it normal? It shouldn't be that normal based on what occurred. This movie has all the details to make up for all of those questions. It answers all of those questions. And the more you look, the more you're satisfied, the more you discover things that they changed that you didn't notice before. And you're like, wow, they changed that. Like, they went into enough detail for that to make sense. Or the amount of things in the beginning that they hint at and then at the end of the movie come true. I just think this plot is so well written. It's by far the best time travel movie made as far as detail that I am aware of. Now, the premise itself is also just satisfying. It's simple enough. It's good execution, right? The story is good enough to get you along and is interesting, but not too heavy, right? It doesn't feel too intense or the stakes are too high, even though they're just high enough, right? And they do a good job of just keeping that simple formula, right? There's an easy guy to cheer for. There's an easy guy to cheer against. You're cheering for Marty to get back to his time, but you're also cheering for him to help George and help him get with Lorraine, right? And all the characters make sense and are nice and fun. Biff is a great villain. He's so easily just this bully that you can't stand, and it makes it easy for the audience member. There's no like dilemma here. It's just a nice, easygoing movie that's fun to watch. Albeit, I will admit, okay, the dynamic between his mother loving him and being so enticed by him is a little odd, okay? It is a little weird, but they do handle it, I would say, in a fairly graceful way. But there are moments where it's like, wow, okay, this is a little weird because that is his mom. But I just love the movie so much that honestly, that kind of stuff just does not bother me. Second is attraction. Does the movie have an interesting premise with a high entertainment value? I would say so, definitely. I mean, I'm always interested in time travel. That is a very interesting concept. And so for a movie to do that really, really well, you've got my attention for sure. Not everybody is interested in time travel though, but it is just a good classic movie. It's a classic 80s movie. And the truth is, they really did do movies differently back then. Like, I just think that overall they were better at making just these lighthearted, fun movies to watch over and over and over again. It's something that is lacking nowadays. A lot of the movies now, I feel like they're not able to stand time and be watched 1,000 times. You can watch them a couple times and then they just lose their luster. This movie has been watched 1,000,000 times and it will continue to be watched 1,000,000 times. I myself will watch it 1,000 times already and I'll watch it 1,000 more times. It's just a good classic movie that I think a lot of people can enjoy. Third is theme. What message or truth is the movie trying to convey? Now, the theme isn't in your face in this movie. There isn't just this really easy to see theme, in my opinion. Like, you do have to dig a little bit, but it's definitely there. There's a message here. One of the things I enjoy about this movie is the discovery about why Marty is the way he is and the sympathy that comes with that, right? In the beginning of the movie, he's dealing with these parents that I don't think he has much sympathy for. I don't think he enjoys that much. I think he criticizes them a lot and feels very different. He doesn't feel like he's the product of George and Lorraine. He feels unique and different. And I don't think they're not necessarily great adults. You don't look at them and think, wow, these are fantastic parents. They're kind of, one is abused and used, by his boss, and the other one seems just pretty much depressed. And so it's not great. But then when he goes back in time and he meets the teenage version of George, the teenage version of Lorraine, he sees himself. And he sees totally different people. And I think it's clear as the audience member that you can see how he is the product of those two people, but things have changed in their life to cause them to become different. But really, he is them. And that's kind of fun. I like that sympathy aspect where he's so worried about, rejection, and he's scared of it. But then he finds out his father was the exact same way about his writing, and he just sympathizes with it. And it's a nice, sweet little moment that I always kind of enjoy, that maybe has taken more of a meaning to me than it necessarily ever meant to be. I think more of the prominent theme through this movie is the idea of like the future not being fixed, that subtle changes in your own personality can make big changes in your life. One of the big things being the change that happened to George's life is his confidence, right? He gained confidence that he never had, and that confidence brought him all kinds of success and happiness. And it's this idea that you learn that, hey, just be confident in yourself, that you have, talent, that you do pursue what you want to pursue the right thing as well. Do the thing that you know is right, and don't be scared to do that. Gain some sort of confidence and you will gain success. I think that's a truth in life. And again, it's not something that's necessarily pushed in this movie, but they're good lessons to learn. Fourth is dialogue. Is there a real feel to the conversations? I really enjoyed the way they handled dialogue in this film. I think they struck a good balance between having dialogue that is serious enough to convey either emotion or just move the plot along, and being funny. It doesn't need to have a break. It just blends the two together really well. One thing that they do is they kind of incorporate several aspects of comedy. You have conversational humor, but then you have situational humor and you have physical humor, and they kind of sprinkle all of those in there somewhere so that you're never really hit with the same kind of comedy. There's a lot of films that will do that. They'll pick one avenue and do that one slice of comedy 1,000 times, and it just gets old and isn't as funny. This movie does a great job of doing a little bit of all of them at different times, so it just continuously stays funny. I mean, after watching this movie over 1,000 times, there are still moments that are funny to me and will always be funny. That to me is just a sign of some really good dialogue, some good writing. I will also say that this movie is extremely quotable. Maybe it doesn't seem like it is, but I use quotes from this movie all the time, and that is absolutely a sign of some good writing and some good dialogue. Fifth is acting. Are the characters convincing? One thing I'll say about the acting in this movie is everyone does their job. I don't know that anyone necessarily stands out as this great character that completely carries the film. The great part about the acting in this film is that everyone does their job well. They play their character well. And people will probably have their favorites be placed in different characters, right? Like, people will love Biff, Marty, Brown, George, and they're all right to do that. None of them really carry this film more than the other. They all do a great job. So we'll start with Michael J. Fox as Marty. And again, he just fits the role well. He does a good job with the humor. His energy in the role is nice. He plays this kind of cool, nonchalant guy pretty well. He's just likable. He's a good character. He's a good main character to follow that doesn't make a whole lot of stupid decisions and is honestly relatable. I feel like they wrote him in a way that makes sense as far as his intelligence and the way he handles things. And Michael J. Fox brings like a good humor to that and a good energy to being like a teenager, but not a stupid one, but one that will make mistakes, if that makes sense. Now, Christopher Lloyd as Doc Brown, personally, probably my favorite character, just because he has the most energy and the most physical comedy. He's, to me, the most memorable character. He does have really good chemistry with Michael J. Fox, and they're a great duo together. You feel like they have a pass together quickly. You don't have to be convinced that they are friends. You just are quickly. And though he has a lot of good comedy in this film, I think a lot of that is due to the fact that he produces a lot of the physical humor and energy needed to make this character really, really funny. Now, Crispin Glover as George, I think he's actually pretty underrated. Doesn't get a whole lot of recognition, I don't think. But his character, he played it really well. He plays his dork super well. Like, you don't ever question, like, oh, that guy's way too cool to be the dork in this movie. He just is. He plays this kind of like insecure loser really, really well. And you pull for him and have sympathy for him like pretty quickly and easily because of the way that he portrays the character. Now, Thomas Wilson as Biff, he just plays a good mean guy. I mean, he doesn't have, again, nobody in this film really does anything extraordinary where they go out of their way, but they do what they're supposed to do and they do it right. And he just plays the bad guy good. Like, there's never a moment where you think, wow, that Biff guy, maybe he's a good guy. No, he's just a bad guy through and through, and he looks the part and acts the part really, really well. Leah Thompson as Lorraine, she's great as well. I think she does have, I don't know, a good portrayal of kind of being infatuated with this like kind of teenager love, and she brings good comedy. Like the scene of her with Marty, you know, after he gets hit by the car is really, really funny. And again, it's like, it's not that anybody did anything great, but they all just brought what they needed to bring. They all performed their characters well and didn't need to outshine each other, but they all just came together to make a bunch of characters that are really well done and you can like for all the different reasons. The acting in this movie is kind of, it's weird because none of it's great, but all together it's fantastic. There's nobody that feels out of place. Every character feels right, and it feels like they're all playing the correct character because they all did a good job at doing their job. So nobody stands out, but all together they stand out. 6 is cinematography. Is there a creative use of lighting, setting, and wardrobe to convey emotion? Now, there is, like I said earlier, an amazing amount of detail in this movie. It's one thing I really appreciate it as an art form. I think it's why it's been so successful in some ways. There's so much detail. They do so many things in the background that you don't notice in the beginning, but after a couple watches, or maybe it's pointed out to you, you recognize, and it's just amazing. I mean, it took me so many watches for me to feel like I've seen everything, and I honestly don't even think I have. I still think there might be 1 or 2 things in there that I've never noticed, and I'll discover them one day and think, wow, that's amazing. The more you discover about the details in the background of this film, the more you come to appreciate it and how much love and care was put into this movie. It's something that I don't think necessarily goes on anymore. I don't know how many people, like nowadays it's just all about budget. It's all about making that big movie. It's not necessarily about the art of making a movie. It's not the love, right? The only ones that get the love are the ones that are completely super serious, right? Like, this isn't even a serious movie, but it has so much detail put into it, so much love into the story, so much care. And maybe some movies have that, and I don't spend enough time with them like I do this one to see that. But I just think in general, there are a lot of movies that are made just to make money. But this feels like a movie that, you know, of course, it meant to make money, but it also was a love project. It was, you know, something that somebody really, really cared about. And you can tell with the details in this movie. I also think they made some really great decisions here. One thing that I think maybe people don't think about is the fact that so Marty has to be cool, and of course he plays the guitar, and that's cool, and being in a band is cool. It's still cool nowadays. But him riding a skateboard, that's a pretty unique idea to the year 1985. Like, skateboarding is not nearly as popular as it is today. 1985, skateboarding is honestly kind of a young idea and not really developing into this big. I don't think at that point it was seen as like a culturally cool thing. They definitely were ahead of the time and established, maybe they were the ones that established a trend of like, hey, this is cool. It's cool to ride a skateboard, because not long, you know, a decade after that, skateboards are really starting to climb and become cooler. And I do think that it definitely had a role to play in setting this trend of being cool. And nowadays you look at it and think, oh yeah, of course it's cool. Of course the cool guy rides a skateboard, right? But back then I think that was a pretty interesting and unique idea. And of course the DeLorean, right? The DeLorean is iconic. It is the iconic time machine. I mean, if you're going to think of time machines, the DeLorean is one of them. And in personal opinion, it's the coolest. It's a car that would have been completely forgotten about. No one would care about it. Today, no one would care about the DeLorean or even think about it if it wasn't in Back to the Future. They chose a car that was very unique and honestly perfect. Like it was begging, it was asking to be a time machine, and it looks fantastic. Like, they went through some other iterations that were pretty terrible as far as what the time machine should be. But again, they just made, they ended on a fantastic decision. The DeLorean is iconic. It will always be iconic, and it will be super cool, and that's because of this movie. This movie really has a lot of great style, and I think kind of subtly, it is pretty cool. Like, even the outfits itself, a lot of the details into 1955 and the ways people dress and the cars that are present, they put a lot of effort into that, and the style looks cool and is memorable and brings a certain energy to the film that I think overall makes it better. Now, emotion-wise, I'll probably rant a little bit, but this movie doesn't necessarily encourage emotion. I don't think that the movie was made or has any scenes that were going to convey any sort of large emotion other than maybe just, you know, happiness of like this good ending, right? But not the emotion that it brings me. But that is one of the best things about movies. And there's a couple movies that will bring this up, but this is the movie for me to bring up the topic of why I love movies. What movies can do for you with emotion. I mean, this movie didn't even intend on it, but that's what movies can do. This is a movie that I watched as a kid with somebody, you know, with my dad, and my dad showed it to me. And I have a great relationship with my dad, and I love my dad. And so we watched this movie a lot, and I loved it, and he loved it, and we learned, I think, to love it even more because the other person loved it. And so it just turned into this always pleasant time. Whenever I watched this movie, it was a good time. It brought me good emotions. It was fun. It's a connection to somebody I love that nobody else has that connection. It's us. It's our connection. And that's what movies can do. So this movie will always bring me to my relationship with my dad. And I will always love it for that. Always. And it doesn't even have to be a good movie. Coincidentally, I think objectively this is a good movie. But I'll give you another movie. Take Killer Clowns from Outer Space, right? A movie that objectively not that good. Now, I would argue some things about it are good, but overall, pretty cheesy, silly film. But again, it just has good memories for me. It's a movie that I watch with my dad, that no one else cares about, but it's just so goofy and fun that when I watched it, I liked it. I thought it was fun, and I associate it with my dad. Right? There's a lot of movies I will associate with my dad and all of these good times, but they don't necessarily have to be good movies. And that's what movies can do. I have, you know, with my mother, she always loves to watch The Polar Express on Christmas time. And that was her tradition for us, is to watch The Polar Express. And I will always love that film. And objectively, it might have great things. And objectively, it might have bad aspects to it. But no matter what you tell me objectively, I'll love that movie because it will always remind me of my mother. It will remind me of my relationship with my mom. And that's a beautiful thing. And it's something that movies have done for me. And I think it does that with a lot of people, but I don't know if everyone necessarily realizes the potential of movies. Like, they think, oh, it has to be a good movie. It doesn't. It just has to be intentional. It has to be something that you share. It's something that maybe you enjoy. Not everyone loves Killer Clowns from Outer Space, but I love it. And so I'll share it with you. And now it's something that we share together if you happen to love it too. That's what movies can do. So this movie has all kinds of emotion for me when it never intended to. And that's fantastic. I love that aspect of filmmaking that I get to be reminded of every single time I watch this movie, every time I watch another movie, right? I'll be reminded of these things I love. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be a relationship. It can just be a time in your life. Like you can remember, oh, I remember when Gremlins came out. I remember being a certain age. I remember going to the theater and watching that movie. And though that movie might be objectively bad, which I'm not saying that movie is, but even if a movie is objectively bad, it can remind you of a time that was amazing, that was fun and good and innocent or just different. And I will always love movies for that. That's one thing about this channel that I love, is that it reminds me of, it's establishing timelines for me. All of these movies I'll watch in a year, and I'll remember all these movies when they came out and where I was at in my life and what I was thinking and where I wanted to be. And I look forward to that. I look forward to spending years and years and years and developing all these memories and then sharing them with my kids, and my kids being able to change the way movies feel for me, because now they're our movies, just like the movies I had with my dad or my mom. So a little bit of a rant, but I just think this is a great movie for that, for me, is to just kind of explain what movies can be, in that it's not always about the objectively right or wrong things that make a movie good or bad. Even though those exist, it's also what you bring to the movie, just like any other art form. Like this itself is some sort of art form, me making this to review this movie, and hopefully it will develop some sort of connection and matter to somebody. Like it may not matter to anyone in the world that is watching this video right now, but it might matter to my children because they see me as a 24-year-old expressing my views about things I love to the world, even though nobody cares, and that might mean something to them. Or maybe movies will mean something different because they knew what it meant to me. I just think that movies are an avenue for me in my life to explore some of the most beautiful aspects of life. Even if that wasn't their intentionality, it was the intentionality that was produced by it anyways. It was the product that came from it anyways. All right, that's all I'll say on that. We'll move on. The cinematography of this movie is really good. And overall, even though it didn't intend on it, it has become an incredibly emotional movie for me to watch. Seventh is editing. This is all about the pace of the movie. It is super weird to just kind of continue on this very structured video after kind of like a very unstructured lecture about the realities of life. This movie is 1 hour and 56 minutes long. I don't care, dude. I don't care how long this movie. I wish it was longer. I wish it was 3 hours long because I love it so much. It's a good length. I think watching it objectively towards the end, sometimes I kind of feel like, okay, let's wrap it up. But it's still for a 2 hour long entertainment movie, it does a really good job of keeping your attention throughout the entire movie. I really enjoy this movie. I enjoy the length of it. I actually, like I said, I almost wish it was longer. Like I do enjoy sitting in it and enjoying it. Like I'm glad it wasn't 1 hour and a half. It's an entertaining 1 hour and 56 minutes. Eighth is soundtrack. Now, the music is fun, right? I think it's probably no different than any regular movie, but for me has become iconic because what the movie means to me. So I will always love the music in this film. Now, I don't know if it's necessarily considered music, but all the noises that they play, the little jingles that they have in this movie, like I said, they're really iconic, and I remember them, and they flush in a bunch of memories every time I hear them. I enjoy hearing them. They're kind of like this little detail that is really important to the movie overall. Like it just makes it even more memorable and unique. So I definitely love those little iconic noises, but the music itself is good to me, but I think objectively it's just kind of okay. Ninth is directing. Now I feel the director is in charge of the previous 8 aspects. They're the ones that have to put it all together, give it their stamp of approval, and make a really good movie. Now the director of this movie is Robert Zemeckis, and this was his 4th film at this point. The 4 total films he had done to this point are I Want to Hold Your Hand, Used Cars, Romancing the Stone, and finally Back to the Future. Now he did direct 18 more films after Back to the Future, which is insane. That is a ton of movies. I haven't watched any of those 3 movies, and I think really I haven't watched a lot of Robert Zemeckis films, but the ones that I have watched, he is one of my favorite directors ever, of course, right? Like, this is one of my favorite movies. And I do say that it's one of my favorite movies because of the connection and the emotion behind it, but it's still, objectively, it's just a great movie. It's one of my favorite movies because it's incredibly entertaining. I've watched a lot of movies with my father, but that doesn't mean every single one is memorable and every single one is good. This is memorable because it is a good movie along with just being a good memory. It has a lot of great aspects to it, and he flexes that even more with a movie like Forrest Gump. He is able to produce all kinds of different movies and produce them really, really well. Like, he is a great director. I think he's one of the best to ever do it and has made some of my favorite films to ever exist. 10th is Time. Will it stand the test of time? I absolutely think it has, right? I mean, this movie is 40 years old and is still remembered, still talked about, still culturally relevant in some way. It's brought up in media every now and then. Is it the most popular thing in the world? No, but after 40 years, a lot of movies have been forgotten, and it's not forgotten at all. A lot of people remember it. It still has a big fan base. I absolutely think it has stood the test of time, and I would be honest and objective if I thought, hey, it's not that good and it's just remembered for kind of silly things. But I think this movie absolutely is remembered because it is a good movie. It's a quality movie that is made really, really well. It's entertaining and fun to watch. I think it has stood the test of time because of all the things it does well. Now for the review section. Rotten Tomatoes critics gives it a 93. The audience gives it a 95. And IMDb gives it an 85. Now, there's no way I'm ever putting this movie at anything but 100, right? This is an amazing movie, right? Maybe 99. But it's will always be one of my favorite movies to ever exist. I will always love it. I will watch it 1,000 more times, even though it may be harder to watch as life goes on, just because of the emotion with it. It will always be one of my favorite movies. And I think objectively it has a lot of things to stand on its own, but it's the movie that has made love for movies exist in my life, right? There's a handful of movies that have just an amazing, huge significance on my life, and this is one of them. And I will always remember it, and I will always tell people to watch it, and I will gladly talk about it forever and ever. To me, this is a 100 movie because it's the perfect movie for me in my life. Finally, for the rankings. For the year of 1985, it is the 2nd movie I've done, and on the entertainment side, it is going to be first above The Goonies. Not much to say here. I mean, The Goonies, I love that movie as well. It is a classic. It is something I will always remember as well, just because it is another father-son movie for me. It's a movie that my dad showed me that I loved. I think it's really, really fun. It's a good concept. It's very rewatchable and has fun characters, but it's not quite as memorable as Back to the Future for me. And I will say that I think Back to the Future is overall kind of a better product. I think they spent more time on it, were more careful with it and more detailed with it. I do think it's easier to rewatch, but it definitely just depends on what you like, right? So for me, it's just this movie will always be number 1 over The Goonies, but it depends on the fan base that you're in. These movies just have a special place in my heart for what they mean to me in my life, and this one will always just be a little bit more important and better than The Goonies, even though I love The Goonies as well. Now, cinematically, out of two movies, it is going to be first above The Goonies. And I'm trying to be very objective, especially, the entertainment side is going to have a lot of my bias, but I try to be objective on the cinematic side. And I think easily Back to the Future is a better movie. I think it just is much more crisp. And they kind of align on some things, but overall, the details in Back to the Future really don't provide much to complain about. I think objectively it just does a lot of things really well. It's one of the reasons why it has stood the test of time. Now, for the decade of the 1980s, out of three total movies on the entertainment side, it's going to be first above The Goonies. Again, for the same reasons as before. On the cinematic side, out of three total movies, it is going to be first above The Goonies. Again, same reasons as before. Now, all time, out of 82 total movies on the entertainment side, it's going to be number one, above The Goonies. And if I'm being honest, I don't know if anything will ever supersede it. I don't know. It's just got a special place in my heart. The only thing that may change it is maybe a movie that I develop with my own son or daughter, or I don't know, that require, a relationship that, becomes more and means more in some way, but I don't know if that'll ever happen. This movie is very special to me and will always have a special place in my heart. So will it ever be topped at number one? Unlikely, but it's still possible. Who knows? But right now it'll be number one and it'll probably stay that way for a really long time. Now, cinematically, out of 82 total movies, it is going to be 18th, just below Thunderbolts and above Trap. This movie was a really hard one to judge objectively, just because I do have such a connection with it. So it is hard to kind of turn my brain off of it because I love it so much that I want to have every aspect to be amazing. But I can admit that objectively, I think the emotion of this movie isn't really there. But I do think that they keep a lot of the details there. I think it is really well made with good acting, good dialogue, good comedy, a good story, one that doesn't have holes, that is thoroughly explained and explored, that has good style and fashion. I think overall it's an entertainment movie, but it does so many things really, really well. And I do have to give it a little bit of a nod for emotion, right? I can't be completely undone there because it does have some sort of emotion for me. And though most of it probably is just a production of my appreciation outside of the movie itself and a part of life, it still has qualities to allow that to happen. So I kind of give it a little bit credit there. I have it below Thunderbolts just because I think that Thunderbolts just addresses it, right? It addresses the emotional aspect more meaningfully and purposely. And it works. That's a great movie. It's really fun. I would watch it again. I think it has great characters, and though it does fall into some of the Marvelisms, it does a good job. It's like reminds me of the Iron Man days when they made good movies. But this one had a really hard, impacting theme that I really enjoyed. So I put it above Back to the Future just because I think it does a lot of the things well, but it just hits that emotion side much, much harder. And so all of the movies above Back to the Future on the cinematic side are just movies that did a lot of things well, very little mistakes, but the tone is serious and a little more serious and a little more emotional. I do have it above Trap, and I just think Trap's actually kind of fallen down on my list more and more. It's a movie that I did enjoy. I do think the rewatchability is kind of not as good as I maybe hoped or thought when I first watched it. I think there's problems with that movie logically. I think some of the plot problems are there. Keep in mind, I still think this is a good movie. I think it was absolutely overhated. I liked a lot of parts about it. Some of the things that people hated, like having too long of, the singing scenes, I actually didn't mind because I thought it was like more immersive and like it felt like an actual concert because for the most part, there's a lot of scenes that were legitimately just kind of concert scenes. But she does do some absolutely horrid acting in the end. So there's some things to pick at and say aren't that good. So I just feel like Back to the Future is a much more crisp movie that has stood around. It has already stood the test of time. I don't have to gauge that and guess that. It absolutely has. And I think that it deserves to be above Trap because that's a movie that I think over time will probably get worse and has things to eat at, where Back to the Future really doesn't. Okay, that's it. Yeah, hard movie to rank, I think cinematically, just because of my connection to it. And maybe things will change with it and I'll end up kind of switching things around with the ranking in time. But right now, yeah, kind of spoiled because it came so early and kind of ruined the entertainment side of the list. Like, I don't know if anything will ever top it, but I'm open to it, right? There's so many movies I've never seen, but that movie just, it has such a connection for me. And I would love to hear, what are some movies that do that for you? What's the reason you love movies? Are there any, like, what movies made you fall in love with movies? That's what I want to know. This movie will always have a special place in my heart, and I know that for other people, there are other movies that have done that to you, and I'd love to hear about that. That's the reason I made this channel, is I wanted to interact and connect with people who also love movies, who have that connection. I want to hear your opinion, and if you've ever seen Back to the Future, what did you think about it? Do you think it is as good as I say it is, or am I overrating it? Thank you again for clicking. If you've made it this far, you're a trooper. This is a long video, I'm sure. I just recorded Superman, and I know this one's going to be really long as well. Two really good movies. This one's obviously very, very special to me. So I appreciate you getting through all of that. If you did happen to get through all of that, please, you spent all that time here. Comment below, interact with me a little bit. Tell me about your favorite movies. Tell me what you thought about it. Just give me something here. Interact with me a little bit. Comment a movie you want me to review, and I'm getting through the list, and I'll get there and I will review it. But otherwise, I think I'll leave it there. I'm Mr. Majoritarian. Stay classy, San Diego.